everybody, to the Dating is Hard podcast. I'm your host, Joe Welkie. For all the info you need to know about this show, head on over to datingishardcomedy.com. You can follow the Instagram at datingishardcomedy, and you can follow me on Instagram at Joe Welkie. This is usually where I'd be doing the live comedy game show bit, but that's been suspended for the time being while we're all in quarantine. There's a lot of cool stuff going on at Pack Theater's Instagram, though. They're doing a lot of live shows over Zoom, so if that's something that you're interested in, head on over there, check that out. All the information's in their Instagram stories, their posts, and all that good stuff. If you could please like, subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. If you're enjoying it, give it 5 stars. That'd be awesome. I'd love that. If you're not enjoying it, keep that to yourself, please. You don't have to tell a soul. You don't even have to listen to this podcast. But anywho, since we're all quarantined right now, it's been it's a little dicey to get people to come on over to the old apartment and have some random guests, because if you're a listener of this podcast, most of my guests are random complete strangers that I don't know, that I've met strictly through dating apps. We meet up about an hour or so before we record. We get coffee or some kind of light food. I go there, prove I'm not a killer, I'm not up to anything weird, and get to know them a little bit, have a little bit of a conversational energy. But since all coffee shops, restaurants, etc. are closed, it is very difficult. I can't just invite people to my apartment, and also I don't want to invite a potential disease spreader, I suppose. So the last couple podcasts, I'm just interviewing some comedian friends of mine, people that I know, that I trust, and we're doing a nice little social distancing podcast. I got my little studio set up in a way where everybody is safe and everybody is all good and everything. But in the case where in the next couple of weeks I do not have guests and I'm doing solo episodes, what I think would be awesome is if you head over to datingishardcomedy.com, there is a little contact sheet, a little thing where you can get in touch with me. Or you could just go to the Dating is Hard Instagram at datingishardcomedy. And I'd love to get some questions from you guys. Any kind of thing that you struggle with, or you want advice on, or you want to hear my opinion on. Going on over to the contact pages there, slide in the Instagram DMs, or you can just slide into my DMs at Joe Welkie if you want, or go to my website, joewelkie.com. I also have a contact page. Send some questions, some things that you'd like to hear my opinion on, or you'd just like to hear me talk about a bit more, and I'll address that in upcoming episodes in case I do a few by myself, solo episodes, in case I can't really find anybody to come on over and record. But today, that is not the case. Today I have a great friend of mine, a hilarious comedian. She is awesome, so please enjoy my chat with Erin Tracy. Hey everybody, welcome to yet another episode of the Dating is Hard podcast. I'm your host, Joe. If you don't know what the show's about, usually I interview complete strangers from dating apps and we have fun conversations about their weirdest and craziest dating stories. But we are in quarantine, so I don't want any fucking strangers in my house. So instead of having complete and total strangers come over, I've been having some of my good buddies in comedy. And today, that is no different. I would say this lady is a step above good friend in comedy, good buddy in comedy. I would say she is number one comedy crush.
That's nice.
She is a hilarious comedian. She hosts her own YouTube series. Everybody, please, welcome to the Dating is Hard podcast, Erin Tracy.
Yay. I don't know if you should cheer for yourself, but
Yeah, of course. Like, there's nobody here to cheer for you, and I'm not gonna fucking cheer for you.
Ooh, you're supposed to cheer.
I just gave you the most elaborate intro ever.
It was lovely. Thank
Nobody
you.
ever
I'm very
gets this.
happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm happy that you're here, and we are nicely situated.
We're socially distanced.
Definitely. Before you came over, I laid down because I'm 6'4". I laid down from your chair to wherever, and then I added an extra foot.
That's really
so
nice.
So we're 7 feet away.
We're very well social distanced.
It feels very weird.
It does feel very weird.
I've never had a conversation with somebody this far apart like this.
I can't quite put my finger on what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like we should be closer together.
It definitely feels like we should be closer to each other.
But it feels like if you're at a coffee shop and you strike up a conversation with the person that is at the next table over, but you don't know them well enough to sit with them.
I've never done that in my entire life.
Oh, I do that all the time, I feel like.
Well, because you're such a sweet and nice person, and you have this inviting face, I feel like.
Yeah. I have the face that says, please, stranger, talk to me, which sometimes is good and sometimes it's not good.
Has it ever led to any dating scenarios? Oh, look at that.
Yeah, man. When I was in New York City, I dated a guy a few times that we just met on the street. He asked me for directions. That's actually my area of expertise is
directions.
Many people ask me for directions, places, which, as you can tell from my difficulty getting here today, is not my strong suit. But I look so friendly that I guess people that are lost feel comfortable approaching me.
Yeah, you have a very trusting. They say that people with rounder features are more trustworthy. And you definitely have full cheeks and a rounder face. That's why I feel like nobody ever talks to me.
Oh, because you have sharp features.
A very bony face.
Yeah, your size is intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, I don't know, man. I just feel like no one would ever approach me and ask me for stuff like that. Or even be interested. I don't know. Nobody ever comes up to me and talks to me, and it's because I have a villain face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, a few times at the Americana when I've been at that mall, the people that have approached me, I've been like, ooh, maybe they might try to kidnap me and sell me into sex trafficking. I shouldn't give that guy directions. They're like, you have a very beautiful face. I want to take you on a date right now. You're like, no, I think that's not a good sign.
So you ended up dating a guy that asked you for directions in New York?
Yeah, he asked me for directions, and then we started talking about the headband I was wearing because I was coming from a yoga class, and he was a person that did a lot of Bikram yoga.
Oh.
And he was concerned about keeping his hair out of his face, and he liked my extra wide headband.
That's awesome.
So we went on a few dates.
What happened? Why didn't it work out?
Oh man.
Just no connection, or
no? I feel like it was probably a relationship I should have now. I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and he was like a doctor that was.
Man, you fucked up.
I know. I know. He took me on the best dates of anyone I've ever dated in my entire life, but it definitely was a little he was too old.
How old was he?
He was too old to be dating me. And I don't know, he kept referring to wanting to sleep with me as he wanted to get me back to his apartment to help him rearrange the furniture. Yeah. And there is nothing, first of all, less appealing to me than rearranging furniture in the first place. And then to use that as a euphemism for sex, I feel like that's not selling your skills very much. You know what I mean? Sex with me is rearranging the furniture. And then I was like, I got to stop dating this guy because I don't want to rearrange anything.
That's also such an older guy thing to say.
I know.
So you want to go put your shoes under my bed, lady?
Yeah, it was like that. And a little part of me inside would every time he would say something like that. But very thoughtful dates. We went to see lots of dance. I was dancing a lot at that time, so we went to see lots of great dance shows, lots of great theater, and, but I just couldn't do it.
Well, how old was he? So you were in your early 20s.
Yeah, he was too old, and he was also just like, I don't know how to describe it. It just wasn't a good fit, I would have been dating him for his money, and the feeling of that was not good.
Well, were you just dating him for his money? Because you said that they were like the best dates that you have had.
I mean, but the dates were what was great about it.
Okay.
He was like a little, I don't know, he was a little Woody Allen-esque for me.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It was, I don't know. It was a little wrong fit personality-wise. He was very smart, which I appreciated.
Yeah, you can't fucking date a smart guy. You need a
No, I like that about it. I do,
He's so smart, and I can't date
Just give me a dumb guy I can boss around. That's really what makes me happy. No, I enjoyed his intellect, and I enjoyed like how thoughtful he was when he took me places. But beyond those things, there wasn't a lot to connect with. So
that's a bummer.
But if I had been interested in upward mobility, that would have been a good one to hang on to at that time.
Absolutely.
He had this crazy apartment right on Washington Square Park. Like,
oh my God, Erin.
Like you could look out and see Washington Square Park.
Up, dude.
I know.
I'm like, my head's in my hands right now because I'm like, oh man, that's such a. I wish I could be that guy. That's awesome.
Yeah, but
he was a doctor.
You're like 900 times cooler than he was.
Oh, did you hear that, everybody? Just follow me on Instagram at Joe Welkie. Follow at Dating's Hard Comedy.
Not that cool. Don't follow him on Instagram.
Wow,
I'm kidding. I'm teasing you. Yeah, but I think that's when I look back on now. I wonder if I would have played it differently if I was,
if you were the age
in
you
my
are
30s.
Now. Yeah.
and dating. I don't know.
Well, what are the type of guys that you like typically go for now? Do you go older, younger? Like, what's your type if you got a type?
I have a bit about this, so it's hard not to go into my bit.
You can just go into your bit.
No, I mean...
you don't need to do the fucking bit. But
No. I don't... So I feel like I hang around comics so much in LA. That's why I don't date a lot here, because dating comedians is challenging.
Yeah, how so?
Because like everything you say and do becomes like part of their stuff, and like they don't do a good job keeping the relationship sacred in any way, even while you're having it. Like I understand afterward, whatever, all bets are off, but like even kind of in that time, and I feel like there's just something about me that while I'm so comfortable with being a somewhat public persona in so many ways, that to me seems a little bit more sacred and private for some reason. So
I understand that.
It's tough, yeah. And also, like at a certain point, you show up somewhere and you're like, oh, I've dated all of the people here.
Are you serious?
No,
Erin.
I haven't. But I'm saying, like, on a long enough timeline, all of the people here have asked me out at some point. So that could happen, like, that's... So you have to be a little, like, cagier than you would if you were in the wild, just able to pick them like little crops from your field. So
have you heard a comic that you've dated do a joke about you?
Yes.
How fucking awful is that?
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Was it a good bit? Were you?
No, that's
it wasn't even good.
No.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know. I know. It was like icky.
You know what? So because I've dated a couple of comics and I've heard jokes about me.
Yeah.
And and I've written jokes about.
I've heard jokes about you from people you've dated.
Yes, you have. We talked about that. But and I've also written jokes about like female comics that I've dated too. But it always seems like it's kind of from a place of like, fuck that person. Yeah. And when you hear it, it's like, oh, I can tell that that's a place of fuck me.
Yeah.
Because when I write bits like that, it's a place of fuck you.
Yeah.
So it's always funny, though, to be like, oh, this is me.
Well, then, like, I like the comedy community so much that then when you date somebody, what I learned from an experience early on in LA that was really hard and really difficult, that's the same word as hard, I like, it just was the worst, is that, like, in a way it kind of cut me off from that whole section of the comedy scene.
Yeah.
And it had happened to be the one that I was closest to because I had just come to LA from San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, not only are you kind of crippling yourself socially, but also, you know, professionally in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, I mean, they always say if you're a comic, don't date other comics, but we're just around each other so constantly.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, you know, you go to work during the day and then you're doing comedy all night. Like, where are you supposed to meet somebody else?
Don't meet anybody other than comedians.
Exactly.
Like, so then my type is 29-year-old comics. Because those are the only people that ask me out. Sometimes a little younger.
Oh.
Sometimes a little older.
Have you indulged in the younger?
Oh, no. No. I feel like ideally I would have somebody that was close to my age. I grew up in a household of all women, so it was me and my mom and my sister, and our only standard was something we called the jump test. Which is if the guy you were dating came over and you could run at him with all your might and jump on him and he wouldn't fall over, then he passed the jump test and he was dateable. So I guess all the men I date are sturdy.
Oh, there you go. That's
How about
type.
that? I like a sturdy man. My friend was telling me that I like gym guys. Like,
oh, really?
You like gym guys. Yeah. I was like,
well, I mean, you're like you were a dancer for a long time, right? And like you take that part of life seriously, and like that is something that you value, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a funny thing because I go to the gym all the time, and if I say like,
Wait.
I'm fucking jacked, dude. Go to my Instagram at Joe Welkie.
He's taking off his shirt right now just to show me his 6-pack abs.
No, but like if I say like I would like somebody, even if I have it, like I take care of myself, I would hope that you do too.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're a vain, selfish, like vain prick.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's that vain. You know?
Well, I like dating gym guys because I like being left alone for at least 2 hours every day.
Oh,
yeah, that's my bit. You like it?
Oh, that's the bit that you do?
That's not all of it, no. But that is a bit I do about gym guys. No, I do. I like a person that is in their body.
Yeah.
You know, that's such a hippie way of saying it. But
yeah, it is.
I like a man that's in his body.
Ugh, it sounds.
If you're gonna be in my body, you better be in your body first. Hey,
boy. You heard it here first, everybody.
Oh, sorry, that was hit the table.
Oh, it's okay. It's fine. Yeah, man. It's just.
I like smart people. I like people that are smart, and I'm under the process of reevaluating what other qualifiers, because
So smart in what way?
Well, that's a good question. I like somebody that I can have a good conversation with, you know, and that the conversation can span multiple subjects and they can hold their ground. I feel like that's important to me.
Do you feel like you're a smart person?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
All right. We got a delusional one here. I'm just fucking around.
No, I know I'm a smart person. I think that women handle their intellect differently than men do. So
How so?
I think that this is going to get me in trouble.
Go for it.
Here we go in the comment sections. I think that sometimes as a woman, you have to be strategic about how much of your intellect you reveal and when in certain situations.
Okay. Can you explain, give a scenario?
Yeah, I think you're just taught from a young age to you're always balancing your social intelligence with your other intelligence all the time. So you're trying to navigate social situations while also operating from the height of your intelligence. And I think sometimes that balancing act is one that might represent you in a different way. So I feel like sometimes some people know me, like it's true of everybody though. I feel like we all do that with different people, right? We like adjust ourselves slightly to like modulate whoever it is that to be whatever part of us with whoever we're with.
Yeah.
But I think
like you don't talk to your like close girlfriends the same that you talk to like a guy comic.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I just think that I think kind of what you're getting at, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you think that people like try and dumb themselves down for like dating purposes or something? Or
I think that's something that happens sometimes. I think I like pushed it way too hard in the opposite direction when I was younger. I like really led with my intellect. And then I was like, well, let's see if you can handle it or not, you know?
Yeah.
And I think from where I am now, it's slightly more interesting to get to know someone, right? Instead of to try to be intimidating in any way. So
yeah,
it's a tough balance to walk, right? Like
yeah, it's a juggling act because you do want to like put your best foot forward and be like, this is me and this is me at my best. And then, you know, a month later you're like, okay, now we're sweatpants.
Well, no, see, that's what I think I've stopped doing now that I'm a little bit older. I feel like now I'm like, this is what it is. Like, it's a used car.
Yeah. There's some mileage here, okay?
Take it or leave it. You know what I mean? It's great. It's a great car. It's going to get you where you need to go. But I'm not going to pretend like it's anything else. And I think that's part of what it all is too, you know?
Yeah.
But I do think once you feel out another person, you quickly come to realize how much of that intellectual part of them is present, right?
Yeah.
In any relationship. And that's important to me. That's another tough thing with comics because like some people that do comedy, I feel like they have to be on in a certain way all the time, and like they're always making jokes and while I think that's okay, I think you should enjoy conversation. I don't even know how to describe it. There's like a different.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a different texture.
You described it perfectly. People that are always on and don't know how to turn it off, and it's like they're constantly running bits. There is one comic that is always on, and he's always doing bits, and like he's like really silly, and a lot of the times I love it.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun when you're in that mood, and sometimes you're just not in that mood.
Yeah.
And it's tough to hang out with a person like that because it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's like being with my dad. It's like, hey-o. You're like, yeah, that was funny.
Because sometimes you just want to have a real conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, like people that don't know how to turn it off, it seems like they're out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
And this one comic that is always running bits and always on, I'll tell you off when we're done recording. Erin's mouthing at me like, who is it? I'll tell you later. But he's just always doing bits. And one day I was just not in the mood for it. And he came walking up, and then he was just like, hey, what's up there, fellas? And it was like about to run into one of his bits. And I went, hey, stop. Stop right now.
To yourself, not to him.
No, to him.
Oh, okay.
I went,
you were
stop.
like, whoa there.
I'm not in the mood for this right now. I know you're going to run one of your bits and like be goofy and silly, but like I can't handle it right now. I'm not in the mood for it.
Yeah.
I love you. You're a great person, but I don't want to deal with that. Just be a regular person right now.
Yeah, you were mom.
Yeah. And then it was just kind of like, okay, geez, all right, sorry. You know, I didn't realize that it's like a always on kind of thing, but like, okay, I guess I can respect that. I was like, Yeah, sometimes you just need that break.
Yeah, or like even if it is funny conversation, it's organic funny. It's not like
Yes.
there's just something different from people that are angling for that. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like they're not in their body.
Yeah, it's weird. And you know who? And I have no problem saying this. You know who's the worst about that? And I think that you will probably agree.
Oh no.
Improv people.
Oh yeah.
Improv people, just a vast majority of them have no idea how to turn it off.
I plead the fifth because I plead the fifth.
I will take that hard stance.
That's one where I plead the fifth. That's a person that's involved in the improv community.
I mean, I love going to improv shows.
Yeah.
And I want to do improv, but the thought of me dealing with improv people day in and day out and practicing with them.
Oh, they would love you, though, because you'd be like the cool guy.
I would not be the cool guy. They would hate me because I don't play the game.
They'd be like, that's Joe. He rides a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's the vibe I give off to improv people. To normal people are like, oh, that's just a normal guy.
He's a circus guy.
So I wanted to ask you something about the dancing world.
Yes.
Have you ever danced or dated like a male dancer? Or, because I feel like there's not many straight guys dancing, but I feel like the ones that are out there are just swimming in dancers.
That was very diplomatic on the way you said that. Yeah,
I could get really gross. They're fucking crushing dancer.
Yes, okay. There we go. And scene. End of podcast. Yeah, I've dated a male dancer before. And, you know, it's funny because up to that point, I'd always heard people would always ask, like, have you ever danced with someone and, like, knew, right, that you were gonna have sex with them,
like had a
feeling, or have a relationship with them, or whatever. And up to that point, I had been like, no, it's work, you know, like you show up to work, and you know, obviously you work in closer proximity and there's physical touch, but for the most part, you're just showing up to work. And then I was cast in a piece where I only got one rehearsal before the show with this male dancer. And it was all improvised, and basically the whole entire piece was just me trying to get away from him, and him trying to like restrain me. Basically, was like the whole dance for a long. It was so hard.
That also sounds like emotionally taxing.
It was emotionally taxing. It was physically taxing, and that was one where I was like, "Oh, we're gonna date after this."
Really? What was it about it?
Chemistry? Is there a word for that? Je ne sais quoi. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just a feeling. So I think that happened. But I would say for the most part, it felt like, you know, pretty straightforward in terms of there to do the work. But once or twice it was like, oh, like we are having an experience together, and clearly this experience is probably not going to end when we get off stage. So
I dated one of my circus teachers, and she was talking about how she was doing, like, before we were dating, she dated or was like involved with another circus person that she was doing shows with. And she was saying that it was like kind of a similar experience to what you were talking about, where most of the time it's like, this is just work. We're like doing circus shit. We're partner circus. And then once you have that connection with somebody, and then it's just like, oh, wow, this is something different.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I have to deal with this. Every once in a while that comes up, but I don't know. Was it like that with your teacher, or you guys got to know each other before you partnered, surely?
Well, me and her never did any kind of circus partnering stuff.
Yeah.
She was the teacher and I was a student, and I'm like not good enough to perform with her, especially like she's like a legitimate circus performer.
Okay.
So no, we never had anything circus like that.
Yeah.
Where we performed together or anything, but yeah, No.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had any kind of experience like that with anybody. Because, like, when you're... Like the female comics that I've dated, no one's like watching somebody do comedy and they're like, oh, like female comics don't watch guys do comedy and they're like, oh my God, this is really doing it for me. You know?
It's funny because I think male comics think that's what's gonna happen to them. Like,
no,
they're gonna be like, women think funny guys are hot.
No, I think that it does happen, but not with female comics.
Oh.
Like
with
other
women in the wild,
women that aren't in the industry or like comedy.
Yeah.
When they see somebody up, and it with me too, like with female comics or like even female circus performers or musicians or anything, when I see them up there and they have like such a command and presence and having everyone's attention, that is so attractive to me.
Is that why I'm your number one comedy crush?
Oh my God, Erin Tracy, you do command no respect on stage.
That's not true.
I'm just fucking with you. But you know what I mean?
I'm interested because I feel sorry for you. It's this hero complex thing I'm working with.
No, you've got a lot of stuff going for you, Erin. You're the number one comedy crush for several different
That's
reasons.
nice, thank you.
You're so funny. You're so sweet. You're such a lovely person to be around. You have such great conversational skills.
That's really nice. It's worth risking getting coronavirus just to sit 7 feet 4 inches away from you.
Exactly. But do you know what I mean? Like, there is a band. Do you remember this band called Matt and Kim?
Yes.
They had that song, Daylight.
Yeah.
So Kim, I think, is an absolutely unattractive woman. I think that she's not a good-looking woman.
In your opinion?
In my opinion. I saw them in college perform at my school. Mm-hmm. And the way that she was, like, owning the stage and, like, doing shit on her drum kit and just that command and presence, I was like, holy fuck, that lady is so attractive.
Yeah. Ooh, I felt that way about, what's the new James Bond?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. I felt that way about Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
My mom and I went to see, he was in a Broadway show with Hugh Jackman. And
another hunk.
He's such a hunk. Well, we really went for Hugh Jackman, but then I saw them outside of the theater before we went into the show. And Daniel Craig, I did not get it before that. And then just how he is, like, there's like the way the air moves around him was, and he had this terrible mustache and still. And Hugh Jackman is like 7 feet taller than he is even, you know, like he's not a big guy, but like you could not stop looking at Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, like, now I have a huge crush on him. But yeah, there are those certain people where when you're in their presence, I don't know, they have something. They have a secret. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, so the thing is, you don't think that about male comics when you see them on stage because you are a comic. You know the trick, you know? Not to say that it's a trick or anything, but you have the skills that they have.
It's
so
like
you don't,
magicians.
Yeah. You know you have the skills that they have, so you don't respect it as much. You know, you're like, oh, he's doing this. I know how to do the trick, like with magicians, to have an analogy. But people that don't do comedy, number one, a lot of people are terrified of public speaking. And they're like, that's the most insane thing, and I would not want to do that. And being up on stage alone is a nightmare.
Okay.
And then number two, if you're good at what you're doing, like if you are making a whole room of people laugh, that shows like, oh, this is... Okay, so I read, and people will give me a bunch of shit about this, but I don't give a fuck because who gives a fuck? I read The Game, that like pickup artist book.
Of course you did. I'm 0% surprised by that.
I read that in college.
That's why you'd be the motorcycle guy in your improv group.
You know what's funny is like people trash those books, and
they should.
I don't think they should.
Okay.
Have you ever read them?
I've read that book.
The Game?
Yeah.
See, I've read a couple of those books. Like I read The Game and I saw Amazon's like people who like that, like this, and I read a couple other ones.
You were like, I'm planning to write my own. Research.
The thing about those books, though, is 85 to 90% of the book is just like, hey, take care of yourself, have confidence, stand up straight with your, like, work out, feel good about yourself, and be confident, and people will be attracted to you.
But also make women feel bad about
Well,
themselves.
that's the 10 to 15% that takes it a step beyond. You know what I mean?
I feel like that 10 to 15% is like,
that's what people
that's a
harp on.
problem. Well, they should, like.
Well, yeah, obviously.
No, nobody should be trained to do that. It's like, and I think it makes it even more deceptive that it's like wrapped up in a good message too. It's like, oh, it's hard sometimes to parse out people that give good and bad advice, one with one hand and one with the other.
Well, you have to be smart about things. Like, you have to take little bits of advice from everybody. Like, if you gave me advice and like it was 80%, 85%, I liked it, and then 15% I didn't agree with, I'm not going to be like, fuck Erin Tracy, she's a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, you would probably only come to me for advice that you would like to hear from me anyway in the first place. So
yeah, and that's what people that were reading the game were all about.
That's existentialism.
But anyway, what was I talking about? I read the game.
You read the game.
And one of the principles of the game to lure women or whatever, pick them up, it was called demonstrating higher value, and showing that you have value in society and like you are a person of value.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and then I think that's a big thing with like comedy. Like, if you're up there and you're commanding your presence and like everyone's listening to you, you're demonstrating like, oh, I'm someone that people should listen to.
Yeah.
And people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
But you aren't, and you think it's like, oh, this is just a male comic.
No, I'm attracted to that. If somebody is doing a good job, I feel like virtuosity in any sphere is very sexy. You know what I mean? Somebody doing a good job at what they do, and the harder it is, except for magicians, it doesn't do it for me. That is not sexy to me. But I can't. But
dude, I think that if you saw a really like attractive, handsome, suave, confident, like up close, what is it called? Sleight of hand magician.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever gone to the Magic Castle
I've been
or
to the Magic
Black
Castle.
Rose Rabbit or something.
It didn't do it for me.
All right. Maybe you didn't see any hot guys there.
Maybe I didn't. I just, anybody that's very competent at what they do,
Yeah. And the same thing applies to you. Yeah. I think that a lot of people, when they see you doing comedy and you're like having a good show, you probably get hit on after shows a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, recently
You're a virtuoso.
Oh, that's nice. Recently I had a pretty good show, and like multiple men found my website and emailed me through the form on my website.
Wow,
which was
really?
kind of weird. I was like, yeah, search engine optimization. But I was also like, wow, okay, like
Were they like, hey, I'd really like to get to know you?
Yeah, something to that effect.
What does that mean?
No, honestly...
Yes, get to know you, dick pics.
No. Honestly, I'm nervous to even say this because I feel like I've been very lucky, because based on the energy I tend to give out, I tend to get pretty... Even if it is like people that ask me out on dates, it doesn't tend to be like totally toxic creeper or weirdo people.
Yeah.
That being said, there are enough of those to go around, so like I get one of those every once in a while. But for the most part, it's like real humans that are like, hey, I went outside to have a cigarette after the show. When I came back, you weren't there, and I wanted to say you did a great job. Like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And like, email me the next time you have a show. Or like, let me know if you want to go get a coffee sometime, or,
I think that's also like part of the vibe that you give off.
Yeah.
Like, you're a very... I don't want to say wholesome, but like you're a sweetie. You're a sweetheart.
Thanks.
And I think that lends itself to other sweethearts.
That's nice. Yeah. I am not sad about that. You know what I mean? That's something that makes me feel like I'm on the right track with the things that I'm making, that I'm not soliciting those kinds of responses to me or to my work. But I do think that it's difficult. And like I said, even still, it's impossible to prevent.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they get a hold of you, you know?
Well, hopefully not. I mean, that...
Wait, have you ever gotten like a creepy email that you're like, oh boy?
Yeah, I've had a few followers on Instagram in particular, because I feel like that's the one that I'm most active on, that I post. I have a ongoing story series I do called The Strange Trash of Glendale, which I was nervous about starting anyway, because like locating yourself is kind of...
Yeah.
But I had one person that I finally was like, okay, maybe, that would just constantly ask me out to dates in different parts of Glendale, but was like clearly like a kind of a burner account, sort of.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you tell that?
Well, like their picture isn't like a real person, and yeah, like even the stuff written in their bio is like weird, like not real sort of thing.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah. So after a little bit of that, I was like, that's enough of that.
Hey, I saw you were looking at trash on Brand Avenue.
Man, people love that series, though. People really like my trash. It's not my trash.
Yeah,
it's the
not
trash I discover, like gifts when I walk my dog.
It's very weird, too, because that series is always so... I've never noticed trash like that. And then you're constantly finding like half of an action figure that's burnt or something. Like, where are you fucking...
You know, I had a teacher in undergrad when I was at the experimental theater wing. And it just makes me think of her so much, because I remember when I was in her class, I was 18 years old. I was fresh from Florida, living in New York City. And she was like, every year for my birthday, I walk around New York City and I look at the garbage to find my present. Like, she finds herself a present in the garbage every year. And I remember thinking that is such a fascinating idea, right? Like, that you would just go out knowing that there was something in the garbage for you. I sound like a crazy person, I realize.
That is the most experimental theater thing I think I've ever heard.
But, like, then when I got to Glendale, it's like, this is such a combination community. It's like old houses and people that have been here forever and new apartment buildings, and there's always crazy stuff out by the road. And I started to notice it, and I started to take pictures and comment on it a little bit. But it feels like that. It feels like I've got a dog that's got to walk for however many hours every day. So I take pictures, and that's like the little gifts I find along the way.
Oh my God. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the sweetest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I find my gifts in the garbage. I make my own gifts. I ain't got a man, but that's okay, because my gifts are in the garbage.
I find my gifts on the street.
That's all I need. Just me, my dog, and my garbage.
Oh my fucking God, Erin Tracy. Okay. What is the best date that you've ever been on?
Oof. That's a good question. Best date that I've ever been on. The best date, that is tough. That's a hard question. When you're as old as I am, I feel like you've gone on a lot of dates.
Do you feel like they all kind of just blend together at a certain point?
At a certain point, I think that they do.
Yeah.
Like, is that bad? I mean, definitely that doctor took me on fancy dates, but I wouldn't call them the best dates I've ever been on, because the connection wasn't incredible.
Exactly.
You know,
there's best dates, like the most extravagant, pricey, fancy dates,
Yeah.
but that doesn't always mean best.
that doesn't mean the
You can
best
have
date.
a really great connection with someone that it's just like you went to coffee and it was like, wow, this was, or walked around.
Yeah, you know, the one that comes to mind is my high school boyfriend and he went to school in Pennsylvania when we were undergrads, and I was in school in New York City, and we kept dating. And he came to New York and we went to Little Italy, and we like sat outside at one of those restaurants that like shouts at you to come in, come in, come in. And we didn't know what we were doing because we were still young, but they like served us wine anyway, and like they poured him a taste and he didn't know how to taste wine. It was just like, it felt like the first real grown-up date, you know, where it was like in kind of a larger than life setting, and we were getting wine and like pasta, and all these Italian people were like fawning over us. And I think like the very gentle awkwardness of us trying to navigate that situation like we knew what we were doing makes it one of my favorite date. Like that like uncertainty that you only have in that very tiny window of your life, right? In between like leaving your childhood home and then becoming a jaded college person. And yeah, I think that would be my favorite date. But just because, and I was like, oh, he doesn't even know how to taste wine. You know, like I was embarrassed for both of us, but also having the time of my life. And that combination of things makes it really special.
Yeah, those dates are so great because it's like, there's this band that I really love. They have on their website, they have a Japanese phrase because they do like, it's called retro wave. It's kind of like synthy music that harkens back to like 80s music. And they have this Japanese phrase on their website, and I forget what it is, but it means something like the sadness that you have when you're living in a moment that you know you'll be nostalgic about in the future.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those moments, and that phrase is so beautiful to me, and it's also devastating.
Yeah.
And those dates like that where you're like, you're in the moment, but then you're also like, this is so amazing, and I'm going to look back on this as like, this was something special.
Yeah.
Those are great moments. And like you said, well, like we said earlier, like that's not the fanciest date. There's nothing incredibly like, oh my God, he took me to blah, blah, blah.
Little Italy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Little Italy's
it's cute.
pretty nice.
Yeah.
But there's something special about those dates where it's just, they're so nice and they're so perfect.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so your podcast is Dating is Hard.
Uh-huh.
But you're like a handsome, young, fit guy with a good head on his shoulders. That I don't know. From what I can tell. Like,
this isn't really sounding much like a question.
Are you... I feel like I have to return that list of compliments you gave me earlier. Are you hard to date?
I have some red flags for sure. I just think that as I've gotten older, I don't really, it's weird to say because I am almost open to dating anybody. If you looked at like the timeline of the women that I've dated and like lined them all up, there wouldn't be much of a through line. You'd be like, you went from that to that, like that doesn't, I don't get it. So I'm like very open-minded about who I date, and I'll give just about anybody a chance. But I hold myself to very high standards, and with that I also am very picky about who I want to date. And I don't want to date just anybody. And I find that I'm not satisfied with a lot of people. I don't find a lot of people interesting. I feel like a lot of people don't have a lot going on, and they think they do, or they act like they have a lot going on, but I just don't think they do.
Like a lot going on in terms of things in their life, or like in terms of not a lot going on upstairs?
Both. Not at the same time, but like certain people don't have a lot going on upstairs, and certain people don't have a lot going on in life. Like before the quarantine, I went on a date with a girl who was just absolutely, I talked about this on the last episode of the podcast, which we'll reiterate in case you didn't hear that. But I went on a date with this girl who was just absolutely like, she was gorgeous. She was beautiful. And I went on the date and I was like, this is going to be a one and done situation just because I know that she knows that she's out of my league.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was just like, well, then why are we even going on
It
this
feels
date?
really good to be in that place as the woman every once in a while, though.
I bet. But like in the last episode, I say like, I don't think that she necessarily was out of my league, but I know because she's like a pretty woman, she could do better than me.
But not a hooker in terms of pretty
She's not
woman.
Julia Roberts, pretty woman.
Okay.
She was just very pretty. And I know that she knows that she can do better than me, so
Yeah.
I really would have to like fucking bring it in order to like woo
And you
her.
don't want to bring it.
No, it's not like I don't want to bring it. It's that I'm not going to fucking be something I'm not.
Yeah.
And I have a lot to offer. I think I'm an interesting person. I have a lot going on. But talking to this girl, it was very evident that she didn't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
She was in. This isn't that it's not a lot. There's not a lot going on. She was in grad school.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that that's like tough and there's a lot to do. But
Like grad school for
I forget it, but it was something like
important.
Pretty, yeah, it was pretty heady. She was a
Well,
smart
that might
person.
be all she could have going on.
I know. So her life was she would go to classes and then she'd study and then watch Netflix.
Yeah.
And that was all she did. And I kept being like, that's it? You don't have anything else?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I just pretty much go to class and I go to my apartment. And as pretty and gorgeous and probably smart as she was, I was having a real hard time having a conversation with her just because I have a lot of interests. And if you don't have interests and all you do is go to grad school.
Yeah. Well, unless you're interested in that thing that she's studying in grad school. Like,
Yeah.
unless you're going to be like, you're like, oh my God, biochemistry.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, baby.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just couldn't see myself doing that. But in my opinion, there wasn't anything going on there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not that she's like an uninteresting person and like she doesn't deserve to date a person that's special for her or anything. It's just that I knew that she wasn't right for me. I'm attracted to people that have stuff going on, that they have interests and hobbies and passions.
Yeah, I think that's normal. So is that a red flag?
Yeah, for sure.
It is?
If someone's like, yeah, I just work and then watch Netflix.
No, you said, like red flags that you see in other people.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like you personally.
Oh, me personally?
Have Joe red flags.
Oh, I 100% have loads of red flags.
What's one of your red flags?
Well, I don't drink or smoke or do drugs.
Okay.
That's a big red flag for a lot of people.
Really?
Especially the drinking, because a lot of people, especially on dating apps, the first date suggestion is let's get some drinks.
Yeah, I don't do any of those things very much. I'll have a glass of wine every once in a while, but that's pretty much the limit.
Yeah. So that right off the bat, those are red flags for people. I've gotten so many people that were like, we were having good banter, we were setting a thing up, then it's like, let's get some drinks. And I go, I don't drink, but like,
let's get a coffee.
We can do something else.
A panini.
Yeah, exactly.
Who doesn't like a panini?
And then they're like, not interested anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. I know that's a tough thing because I don't smoke pot at all. So
Yeah.
I feel like in LA, it's a really tough. It's tough to be like,
So there's
I
that.
don't do that.
That's a big red flag for people, my lack of drinking, drugs, smoking, or anything. Another big one, especially out here, because a lot of people fucking believe in this, and I think it's the dumbest shit ever, is I'm a Scorpio, and that people fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Apparently Scorpios are like,
Bad.
they're like fuckboys, according to the people that I've talked to.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. I'm not very political. I don't talk about politics. I don't find it interesting, and I don't really...
Do you vote?
No.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big problem.
That's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I also just... I've lived in Maryland, which is always Democrat, New York, which is always Democrat, and California, which is always Democrat. And I always am like, well, it's going to be Democrat, so like, what's the point? And then I also am not interested in that. That's not something that I search out, and I don't read up on it, and I don't really care to. So that's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, that'd be tough for me.
Yeah. And also, like, the moments where I have gotten active and interested in reading about it have been the last 2 elections where I was like, I was kind of into Bernie Sanders, and I liked what he was saying. And then they had the DNC. It was like they kind of fucked him over.
Yeah.
The last one to like push Hillary through. And I was like, well, this is all fucked. This is all corrupt and fucked. And then that just has been festering in my mind since then. And then this time around, fucking Joe Biden's such a creep to me. And I don't want to vote between two creeps. And I think it's fucking awful that we have to. It's a shame to me that those are the two choices.
I agree, but like you still like, why couldn't it be Elizabeth Warren, everybody? Okay. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it still is, I don't know, and maybe this is mine, but I still see it as my duty to not vote for Trump.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think Trump
I was about to say, it's so bad right now, too. Like everything that's going on in the world is it's so upsetting that I think it's difficult for me that people absent themselves from the process, because even if you are living in a democratic state, there are other things that you're voting for on the ballot that are for the good of your community. And whether or not you're like into it, I feel like it's your social obligation. Like that's what we all have an agreement to do. And especially someone like you that I feel like has good principles and a firm grasp on what's going on. I feel like we need people like that more than ever to at least be informed enough and active enough to participate in the elections.
Yeah, it's funny because you think that I have like these strong principles and I have a good head on my shoulders, but I think that that's another reason why I don't vote, is because I'm not informed and I don't care to be, and I don't care to like read up on this stuff. And if I just went in voting blind, I feel like that's incredibly irresponsible.
Yeah.
And so I guess I could should.
And you should.
Look into that kind of shit.
Just get like a very sexy woman to read you the pamphlet before the next election. Like, hey.
Yeah. I don't know.
You can vote yes or no on Proposition 7A.
I've lost all of the listeners to this podcast. They're like, what the fuck? I've been listening to this idiot. He doesn't even fucking vote.
You should vote. I will go with you to the voting office. I will bring you baked goods.
And I
will bribe you for your vote. Oh, wait.
Is
that illegal?
The last election, I was like into Gary Johnson, the third party guy, until he just like he fell off the rail. He went off the rails.
See, you sound like you're somewhat informed about things.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I listen to a lot of the stuff and I read some of the stuff, and it's just the people that I like and I think that have good ideas, they never make it through.
Yeah.
And it's like, then I don't. It's hard to like. I don't want to throw away my principles just because it's like, oh, well, better than blah, blah, blah.
Well, I feel like that's what we had for that shining moment when Obama was president, right? It's like somebody that meant something to so many people finally made it through the gauntlet of the DNC, and people really could like rally behind that person. Yeah.
Well, the first time that he came around, I think I was 18, and I think I could have voted, but I just didn't understand. I was in college, and I kind of have the same ideas then that I did now, but I cared even less and knew even less about politics then.
Wow. Yeah, I campaigned for him because we had just come through all that George W. Bush madness, and I remember knocking on doors and being like, please, please, sir.
Well, I also, and it gets me in trouble a lot with people online and like my social media presence, is like I think a lot of like the liberal left wing stuff, some of it's like overkill, and I think it's too much, and like especially in terms of like political correctness and stuff like that, and that gets me in trouble a lot. And people don't, when I express those opinions, people are like, fuck you, like you're an asshole and blah blah blah, you're probably right wing, alt-right motherfucker.
Yeah.
But like I try and listen to everybody. Like I love, and I know that these aren't like news programs or whatever, but I like John Oliver, and John Oliver is very informative from a liberal, like left-wing-ish standpoint, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that and read a lot of articles from that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of things,
I watch Fox News.
I don't watch Fox
I'm
News,
kidding.
but I'll watch like conservative comedians.
Yeah.
There's like a YouTube, I guess, star. I guess, I don't know. He's got like a YouTube late night thing, and and everyone's gonna be like, "Fuck you" once I say this. Have you heard of Steven Crowder?
No.
He's a conservative comedian, and he has like a conservative comedian late night show, kind of like Colbert or something. And he does like the conservative point of view, because like everybody on late night on actual TV is very left leaning, and then they bash Trump. And his is kind of like, he doesn't always defend Trump, but his is kind of more like from a Republican side of things. And in terms of listening to John Oliver, it's like the same bit of stuff where I'll be with him for 85% of the way, and then I think 15% is overkill. And with the Steven Crowder, I'll listen to it and I'll be like, okay, you're making sense 85% of the way, and then there's an extra 15% where I'm like, you just fucking lost me.
Yeah, where he wants you to make women feel bad about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that 15%.
There are so many extreme
Gets
people.
you every time.
Yeah, and it just, I'm like, well, I can't fucking trust that. And when I say that if I say that I listen to John Oliver, nobody bats an eye. But if I say I listen to Steven Crowder and I like some of his stuff, I think some of his stuff is pretty funny, people are like, fuck you, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And like, I like Joe Rogan's podcast. People have really turned on him. People think
so dating wouldn't be hard for you outside of LA, probably.
No, definitely not. But there's so many people in LA that are like uber liberal, love the Zodiac, and like, here's the perfect example of who I am as a person and why it's difficult to date me in LA. I love doing yoga.
Okay.
I would love to do more yoga. It's just every time I go to a yoga class and they start talking about the spiritual stuff,
somebody touches your butt.
No, I'm for that, baby. You want to touch this bootay, get on it. But once they start talking about like, okay, find your inner center and your chakras and all that stuff, that's where you lose me. And
you can't just enjoy like the yoga practice.
I can't. I think that's bullshit. I think that's
there are yoga
stuff.
studios that don't have the spiritual element, like Core Power. Like there are some studios that are like very aggressively about the physical portion.
That's what I loved about my circus school. They have a stretch and flexibility class, and it's all about you're stretching this muscle, and this is how it's going to help you, and this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
I loved that, but that class is so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
But when you go to like a yoga class and they start talking about like the gods and, tantra and all this other crazy shit, I can't stand that shit.
You would like my yoga class.
Do you teach a yoga class?
Privately.
Well, then I'll fucking do your yoga class.
I'll only talk about your muscles and anatomy.
Thank you.
Anatomy only. Worship the god of your tricep.
But through this conversation and you hearing me ramble on about my red flags, you're probably like, oh yeah, dating will be difficult for you, probably.
The political one, I think, like, just from my perspective, I feel like I like astrology because I think it's interesting, but...
Every woman says that. And then I say I'm a Scorpio, and they're like, I can't date you.
I've dated Scorpios before. You're fine. And my mom is a Scorpio. Yeah, I feel like you sound like you're choosy and a little judgy, but I think that's pretty normal. It's the political stuff for me, I think, would be that would be kind of a sticking point because... It's
understandable. That's your values.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people's values.
Yeah, I think especially here, and like in this moment in time where it feels maybe even more fragile than it ever has before, I feel like that would be one that,
Yeah. It's just... tough. I think so much of it is wrong. So much of the politics and the political sphere and politicians are fucking awful people, and I don't trust. I don't trust the system, dude. I think it's fucked up and corrupt, and it's wrong, and there's no accountability. And
vote for Erin Tracy 2040.
Yeah. I would fucking vote for you.
That's really nice. I was voted most likely to become president in the 5th grade, so I feel like I've got a strong start.
There you go.
I would love to be president. I don't feel like I said anything too dicey.
No, but
dicey.
You're associating yourself with me, the guy who listens to Steven Crowder.
I feel like that would be good for my polling, actually.
Probably, yeah.
I'd like appear for a moment to be slightly more moderate than I really am in real life.
Well, what do you think your red flags are?
I knew this question was coming, and I was hoping I could distract you from it.
No, you could not, and you've had plenty of time to think about it if you knew that this question was coming.
I was being engaged with my conversation with you. I wasn't planning my response, but the thought flashed across my mind that inevitably I brought up this conversation.
After we do the red flags, I'll ask you a different question that will redeem you.
Okay. I think my biggest red flag is that I'm fiercely independent.
See, I would love that.
So I think that is a problem for a lot of people. They want me, I don't know, they want me to like reach out all the time or like be available all the time, or I feel like I am a person that does have a lot going on and I have goals, and I don't know, I think that that's not really something that the people that I date are used to. You know, they're used to somebody liking them and like calling them all the time and like texting them all the time and like being in their space a lot, and I'm not that kind of person. You know what I mean? Like I usually tend to rely on like the guy to reach out maybe a little bit more at the beginning than is normal, because I'm like off in my ethers, and then once the connection is there, I'm like, oh, okay, so like we're doing this thing or we're dating or whatever. But I think from what I've noticed is it really seems like the expectation is the woman is really the one that's like, okay, we're going to take this to the next level and like be boyfriend and girlfriend. And I feel like that is a conversation that should happen like normally and organically together. You know what I mean? Whereas like I sometimes to a fault kind of disappear into my own life. I feel like I'm not giving a direct answer, but I think I'm more independent than most people are used to.
Yeah, and there's definitely a fine line between being independent and kind of standoffish.
Yeah. I try not to be standoffish. I also I'm not a person that, and maybe this is from years of being a dance person where you aren't on your phone all the time. Like I'm not on my phone all the time, so people will take it very personally when I don't get back to them right away, or like it just is not, I don't know how to describe it. Like I will get back to you, but it won't be like in the next 10 minutes unless I'm holding my phone in my hand.
Believe me, I know. Trying to fucking set up this podcast. I text you at like 11 o'clock in the morning and you don't text me back at like
you knew I was coming, and here I am.
I didn't know that you were coming because we had actually scheduled to do this podcast a couple days ago, and then you fucking were like, I can't do it.
Hey. Yeah, it's I can be a little hard to pin down.
Yeah.
So I also think that then that attracts a certain type of person, right? That it feels very comfortable being aggressive, which I don't always think is a right fit. And then they take my like being a little hard to pin down as personal, and that's not how it is at all. I'm just, if it were a person that, you know, we reached a point in the relationship where I felt like I needed to be pinned downable a little bit more, I know I can do that. Like I've been married. I've been pinned all the way down before. But I think that's something that probably is a big red flag. I
would agree.
Yeah.
Because I know that if it's something like, if I am constantly the one to initiate conversation and like ask, like, hey, do you want to go out? Do you want to go out?
Yeah.
And then it's like kind of hard to pin a person down. I take that as a sign of like, that person's not interested.
I know. And that's not how it is for me. It's kind of a combination of like being fiercely independent, somewhat hard to pin down even for my friends and family, and also like a little bit skittish about relationships in general, just based on where I am in my life. So I'd say that would be the other thing, is like, I think in the past I was such a romantic that I would just like, if somebody was like check the boxes and was interested in me, it would be like full speed ahead, you know? And I think because I am a person that, this is going to sound bad. I think it's because I am a person that I'm good in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm good in a relationship. So I think then when it's good early on like that, then people like, it's easy to get swept away, right? Then guys are like, oh, like, you know, I'm going to marry you and it's going to be great. And then I'm so wrapped up in it, I never take the moment to be like, oh, let's take a step back and like not live together right away, or like, you know, like let's really get to know each other and make sure that, you know, we're both on the same page here. So I don't know. I think in this part of my life, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm pumping the brakes a lot more than I ever did in the past, when I would have just like anybody that was like, okay, they're great, you know, like we're going to be in love, we're going to live together, and like it'll be great. And now I think I look at it from a few more perspectives, a few more angles than that, and I take my time a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's popular, and especially here I feel like people are like, every guy I've dated in LA, for the most part, they say the same thing, which is they say, and this is terrifying to me and makes me want to run the other direction, they say, I crave intimacy, but I'm afraid of commitment.
Yeah, it seems like you've been going out with a lot of douches. Anybody that's
it's the worst. It's like you want to like see me with no makeup on, but also like run out the door and date other people. like that is the creepiest. I feel like that is the number one most commonly quotable item from my dating experience here. Yeah. It's like, yo. Yeah, and also I think I'm in the same boat with you in a lot of ways of I think in the past when I was younger, it was important to me to be with someone more than it was at times, more than it was to be with someone, right? And I think I've reached the point in my life where it's only really worth it in terms of time.
Yeah.
If that person's going to be like right, but also willing to work with me on whatever it is we're making together. And I think that's a really rare balance.
Yeah, dude, that's what a relationship is.
Yeah, but it's tough because here I feel like people are like next.
Yeah, for sure. I think.
And I just can't do that. That's why I'm just an old maid that lives in my studio apartment alone with my dog.
It's even harder here, I feel like, because so many people are in entertainment, like we all have big egos.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I deserve better and I deserve more and I deserve it now. That like people aren't as patient.
Yeah.
Or like if you have a bad or like an okay first date, they don't give anybody, like they're like, it wasn't amazing, I wasn't swept off my feet immediately, so fuck you, you know?
I also feel like in LA, even more than when I was living in New York, money is such a like strange thing here.
Oh really? You think so?
Just because I think people use it, I don't know, like the dynamic of money here is very strange. Like,
how so?
God.
Can't drop a bomb like that.
Not that I've dated anybody that has any money here, but from my observations, no, from like, that's not true either. But from like my experiences and my friends' experiences, it's like there's something about using dating. I guess this is true everywhere, but especially in LA, using dating as like a means, not necessarily to build a good relationship, but as a means for upward mobility.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you don't see the side of it that men do at all. That's everywhere.
Yeah. I don't see the side of that men do.
Yeah.
But maybe if somebody that was upwardly mobile, I just see it's like just like the dating the rich guy in New York. I actually have to like you. I'm bad at faking it. That's another red flag. I don't know. And I don't put up with a lot of bullshit. I think that's the other thing is like, I'm tired. I'm just be nice. I'm tired of the bullshit. Like, you don't constantly have to be negative. You don't constantly have to be telling anybody how they're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you can just be a pleasant person to be around sometimes. I give you that permission.
That's so benevolent of you, Erin.
Well, that's my benevolency is really my red flag. She's such a benevolent dictator.
All right, follow-up question.
Okay.
And I think you kind of already
answered. Is this
answered
hour 7 of the podcast?
No, we're doing fine.
Am I the longest one yet?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. Follow-up question, though, to eradicate the bad feelings about listing your red flags.
I'm sure I have others.
Yeah, for sure. We all do. What do you think makes you a great person to date? This is probably a more uncomfortable question.
I was about to say I way prefer to discuss my red flags.
Yeah.
Than tell you what makes me a good person to date. I feel
like why would someone be like?
I feel like
I'm lucky to date Erin.
Yeah. Man, this is the worst position to put a comedian in because we're resisting saying all these things.
I know.
Constantly.
As comics, if you don't know comics, I would much rather tell a story about a time that I bombed than like it's so much more interesting than like, yeah, I had this show and I fucking killed. Like no one wants to hear that story.
No.
But yes, why would a lovely gentleman be lucky to date you?
Oh boy. I'm gonna dig myself a ditch. I am.
I'm just waiting for you to say
really
something
good
like
partner.
I'm waiting for you to say something like, I got that good. Just like the sweetest person this whole podcast, and they're like, just pussies, fuck.
Well, I mean that too, but I'm trying to resist saying that. So my mom will listen as well. No, I'm a good partner. Like, I'm a good partner.
How do you mean?
I like, I can help you achieve your goals.
There you go. That's all you need to say. That's
You know
not
what I
that
mean?
complicated.
Like
a supportive person that's like, hey, you have this interest and I fully support that and I want you to get better in whatever you want.
Yeah, I think I'm a good partner. I don't know. I think I'm fun to be around. And like, I hate this. This is hard for me. I think I have a breadth of knowledge about things that makes me really easy to be around in multiple settings. Like, I think I'm pretty comfortable in a broad range of life experiences. So I think I'm a good partner in that way too. Of like, no matter where you take me, I'll be able to hold my own.
That's awesome. That's great. I've never heard anyone put it like that. But like, yeah, that's great. Because, through your experiences in life, you can be in any setting and be like, yeah, I know a little bit about that, or like, I'm not uncomfortable around certain things.
Yeah, I think I can hold my own.
And that opens you up to a wide range of people that you can date as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If only. But I think that is probably my biggest strength when it comes to being dateable. I am funny. I have good boobs.
There you go. You don't have to keep going. If you could, we can end this now.
No, I think I think I can be comfortable in a variety of settings. I realize, like, the joke I tell about my type of guy it has to do with that. Like, basically it settles on like, I'm the type of woman that you could take with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, Erin Tracy, I'm going to ask you one final question before we wrap this bad boy up.
I feel nervous.
You don't need to be nervous.
I'm constantly nervous during this.
I would love it if you would give everyone listening a piece of advice about dating.
Okay. No, there's a right way to word this. I have a good thing. I've just never put it into words before. So, getting someone that is difficult to love you does not increase your value as a human being.
All right. That is difficult to word.
I know.
Because you said that, and I'm still kind of trying to unpack it in my head.
Well, don't go after the people that are hard to love just because you think it won't say something about you and your lovability. It doesn't make you more lovable to get the hard-to-get person.
All right.
Pick someone that's easy to love.
There you go. Erin Tracy, this is your time. Any plugs you got? Website, Instagram, your lovely, lovely YouTube series.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a YouTube series called Creative Crush with Erin Tracy. I'm at Erin Tracy Comedy on everything, and erintracycomedy.com. It's Tracy with no E, like Dick Tracy, the comic book character.
Yeah, I mean, your name's going to be spelled in the show notes and stuff like that.
I just want to be sure you spell my name right, Joe.
I know how to fucking spell your name. You're the number one comedy crush.
Erin Tracy Comedy. Yeah, that'd be nice. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing it, Erin. This is awesome. And there you have it, everybody. Boom! My chat with Erin Tracy. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And yeah, check out her stuff online at Erin Tracy Comedy, and check out her web series, YouTube show, video podcast. Don't know what to call it, but it's Creative Crush with Erin Tracy. It's awesome. She's a great person. For everything regarding this podcast, datingishardcomedy.com, at datingishardcomedy on Instagram. Follow me at Joe Welkie. Like, share, rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff that makes podcasts huge. Give it 5 stars, tell a friend, etc. And also, like I said in the beginning, you can, if you guys want to email in some stuff, throw me a bone, because these are tough times. It's hard to get some guests in here. They're not the usual suspects, you know. These are people that I know. And I've loved doing these episodes, but it's kind of straying away from what we normally do here at the Dating is Hard podcast. So in the event of theirs being a solo episode, email in some questions, some things that you'd like to hear my opinion on, some advice, or even stories that you'd like to hear. If you've heard me tell a story or something off the podcast or even on the podcast and you'd like me to elaborate and get a little more in-depth about some stuff, go on and email at, I think the email is datingishardcomedy@gmail.com, or you could just go over to datingishardcomedy.com and go on over to the podcast contact sheet. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Hope you're all doing good. Hope you're all staying safe and all that good stuff. And yeah, till next time, later!